So basically on chapter number 5, as we discussed before, this chapter is all about recording the payroll journal. So when we pay the wages and salaries to our employees, how we record the journals in our system, or for the recording purpose, what is the journal we record? We have seen some journal like wages expense account. Then we have seen wages control, net wages paid, Hmrc liability, and we have seen the trade union as well. So all of this, all of these journals, we need to know like what is the figure, what is the item, or what is the content will be recorded in every single journal. So what item we're going to include for the wages expense, which item I'm going to include on the net wages page. So am I going to add something or I'm going to take away something? This is the main important thing you have to remember. For example, if you know the journals and if you know what type of items will come there, then it's going to be very, very easy for you to record the journal in the system. And of course, not only in the system, you can do it on your software. If you use the software, you can record there, and on your Excel anywhere. So for the exam purpose, all you need to know, we need to know some journal. So for the exam purpose, we need to know some journals, and we need to know the treatment of the journals and what is the figure inside of these journals. So let's have a look. Let's have a look our calculation and the journal once again. All you need to do, you need to remember some journals. The first one, I'm going to write it down here, wages expense account. Wages expense. So the journal will be record wages expenses. And what will be the journal for that? For that, the journal will be wages expense debit, wages expense debit, and wages control credit. So the journal is wages expense debit and wages control credit. And the next question is, what item will come inside of the wages expense account? So you're going to record here gross wages plus employer NIC plus employer pension. So most likely these two will be included here. So we'll find the gross pay. With the gross pay, we're gonna add employer's NIC. ER means employer national insurance contribution, and plus employer pension contribution. If I added these two, that will give me the total wages expenses for the company. It's very important to understand. Wages control or wages expense account is all about how much is the total expense for the business. Now, as we discussed the last class, the wages expense is the total expense for the business for the purpose of salary and wages. Now, one portion that is relevant to the employee, for example, the gross wages, how much you pay to the employee. And top of that, because the employee work for us, we have to pay some national insurance contribution, and we have to pay some pension contribution to Hmrc because they are working for us. So if anyone work for you, for your company, you have to spend some additional cost. You have to spend some additional cost because of the employee. So some cost belongs to the employee and some cost belongs to you. Together of these two, if I added these two, the total cost is the wage expense for the whole company, for the whole business. The next journal we're going to see, that is called net wages paid. Net wages paid. The journal will be wages control, debit, and bank credit. Wages control, debit, and bank credit. Because if we pay the wages to the employee, our bank will go down, isn't it? If we pay any wages or salary to the bank, from the bank, our bank will be go down because money will go from the bank. So if I pay any salary and wages from the bank, my bank goes down, means my asset goes down. And if my asset is reduced, then it is a credit for me. What is the calculation here? The calculation will be gross pay minus employee tax minus employee national insurance contribution minus employee pension and if there is a trade union as well, if there is one. So from the gross pay, we're going to take away the tax, we're going to take away the national insurance, we're going to take away the pension, everything for the employee. And whatever money is left over, we're going to pay to the employee bank account. And that is called net pay. Then the next one we're going to see, well, Hmrc liability. On the Hmrc liability section, we're going to see how much money we have to pay to Hmrc. How much money we have to pay to Hmrc. So the journal will be wages control, debit, and Hmrc credit. And the calculation will be employee tax plus employer NIC plus employee NIC. So the simple way you can remember that two national insurance, one tax. Two national insurance, one for the employee and one for the employer. So two national insurance tax, two national insurance contribution, and tax for the employee. So tax for the employee and two national insurance. This three goes to Hmrc. Remember, pension contribution never go to Hmrc. Pension contribution always goes to pension authority. Pension contribution never go to Hmrc. Then the last one we might see, trade union. So wages control debit, trade union credit. What will be the calculation here? Only the trade union. So only the trade union figure will come here. So if you remember this 4 journal and if you know what figure come here, your life will be very, very easy to answer this type of question in the exam. We're expecting at least 4 journal in the exam, and 4 journal will contain at least 20 marks. So 15 to 20 marks we're expecting just from this journal. So if you're very good with this chapter, you will get 20 marks like without losing any marks, because this marks is very straightforward. If you need to be a bit careful, sometimes the word is very, very similar, like employees pension or employers pension, then employers national insurance, then employees national insurance. So this type of word is a bit similar. So you need to be a bit careful with that. Sometimes if you're rush, you might take the wrong item. So you need to make sure you don't you read it very well before you take the item. So let's have a look, some example, and hopefully we'll be more clear after that. Okay, so we have a activity here, activity 3. So let's read this activity. You say accounting for payroll, SMB Co Limited. Okay, SMB Co pays its employees by check every month and maintain a wages control account. A summary of the last month payroll transaction is shown below. So there is a company, SMB company, that could be any company. They pay wages and salaries by check. Doesn't matter. They pay by check, by bank transfer, by cash. Doesn't matter. Calculation is same for everything. We don't have to really worry how they paid. They do the bank transfer. They give check or they give cash. That's not very important for us. The main thing for us important, how much we're going to record for which journal. That is main important for us. So let's have a look. The first item we have gross pay. Gross pay. Gross pay is the money the employee earned before any deduction. So before your deduction, before any type of deduction, any type of earnings I have made, this is my gross pay. So from the gross pay, we pay national insurance, that is employee national insurance. We pay the income tax, and we pay the employee's pension. So gross pay means all of these three, 842, 1305, and 140. These three is already inside of 9452. These three is already inside. Gross pay means before any deduction. So as soon as I see the word gross pay, that means I understand inside of the gross pay, all the income related to employee is included there. Then the last item we can see here, this is called employer national insurance contribution. Employer. Employer means the company, the business. So employee means the person who is working, the employee, and the employer means the company, the business. So for the business, the national insurance contribution is 1042. That's fine. That's not a problem for us. Now let's see the requirement. What is the requirement? The first requirement here, they said, record the wages expense. Record the wages expense. Now this is the first journal, isn't it? We have write it down, record the wages expense. So all you need to do, we need to make the journal and we need to record the figure, how much will be the amount. Can everyone do it together? Let's try to do that. If you do it me now, you don't have to do it later. So the first thing we need to write the journal. We're gonna write wages expense debit, wages expense debit, wages expense, that is our debit, and wages control, that is our credit. The next thing is now I have to get the figure. How much is the figure? So we can see in the bracket we said gross wages plus employer NIC plus employer pension. So this is our gross wages. That is 9452, and plus employers NIC plus employers national insurance, that is 1042, and employer's pension, but we don't see any employer's pension. We have only employee. We have only employee pension. We don't have any employer. So if we don't have it, we don't take it. Very careful with the word. As I said, is employee and employer look like same, so don't take the wrong figure in the exam. So you need to make sure you take the right figure. So read the question a bit slowly so that you can have the right figure. So we're gonna take, we're not gonna take the employee because we're looking for only employer. because employee pension is already inside, isn't it? All these three figures is already inside of the gross pay, so we don't have to take this one again. So our amount will be 9452 plus 1042, that is 10494. Very well done, Maha. Very well done, Suttasen. So we said 10494. 10494. That's it. So the first one is done. All right, let's move to the next one now. The next one we have record the Hmrc liability. We know the journal for that. So let's say what is the journal first. What is the journal for Hmrc liability? On number 3, we can see Hmrc liability. The journal is wages control debit and Hmrc credit. Wages control debit and Hmrc credit. Now, what will be the amount? That will depend on the calculation. So on Hmrc calculation, as we said, you're going to take 2 national insurance and 1 tax. 2 national insurance and 1 tax. So let's go here and find the figure. So for the Hmrc liability, we're going to take the income tax, that is 1305. We're going to take the employee's NI, that is 842. And we're going to take the employer's NI, that is 1042. So you're going to take 842, that is employee's NI. Then you're going to take the tax, 1305. And we'll take the employer's NI, 1042. And that should be 3189. Okay. Thank you, Preksha. So we'll move to the journal now and write it down there. You're gonna write here wages control, that is debit, and Hmrc liability credit. The amount is 3189. Okay, 3189. That's it. All right, so we're done with the Hmrc now. The next journal we're going to see, that is our net wages paid. Net wages paid to the employee. We can see our journal number 2, net wages paid. So the net wages paid here, we can see wages control debit and bank is credit. This is a journal. Wages control debit and bank is credit. And how we calculate the figure? Gross pay minus employee national insurance minus employee pension and employee trade union if they have. Now this question we have only employee tax. We're going to take the tax as well. Yeah. So you're going to minus the national insurance for employee. We're going to minus the tax and the pension. So anything relevant to employee, we're going to take everything. Anything relevant to employee, we're going to take everything. So you're going to write it down here. So how much will be the figure here? Let's get the figure. Gross pay 9452 minus 842 minus 1305 and minus 140. How much it is? So let's get the figure first. 9452 minus 842 minus 1305 minus 140. 7165. Okay, thank you, Aya. So the reason we are taking 7165, because we cut all of this from the employee's earning. Even if you work for a company, they will cut the tax, they will cut the national insurance from your salary, they'll cut the pension, and whatever is the leftover, they will pay you. They will not keep this, the tax, the national insurance, they will not keep for themselves. They have to pay it to HMRC, but they will cut from your wages and they will give it to HMRC separately. It's not like they're gonna cut and keep to them. No, they don't keep for them. They will later on they will transfer all of this to HMRC. So let's do the journal. Net wages paid, set wages control, debit, bank credit. Amount is 7165. 7165. That's it. Now the final one we have pension payable. Now as you already know, pension never goes to HMRC. Pension never go to HMRC. So pension always go to pension authority. Pension always go to pension authority. And for the recording of the pension, pension is a liability because we have to pay the pension to the pension authority. That's the liability. So our wages control will be debit, pension will be credit. And how much will be the amount is depends how many types of pension we have. Remember, if you have only employees pension, take only employee. If we have employee plus employer, take both. So if the question give us both, we'll take both. If the question give us only one, we take only one. So you're gonna say wages control and pension liability. Debit, credit, amount is 140. Very well done, Abdul. 140. That's it. So you can see this for journal. Sometimes you're going to see the trade union as well. There is a no trade union question for that. We're going to see one more example. We have activity number 4. We're going to do this one as well. But now you have idea what we can see in the exam. Exactly this question you're going to see in the exam. They'll give you some figure and they will ask you to calculate all of the journal. Sometimes, remember, sometimes in the exam, they don't give you the gross pay. So rather than they giving the gross pay, for example, let me go up, let me raise it. So I'll discuss something. What else you can see in the exam? Okay, here they give us the gross pay. Sometimes they don't give the gross pay. They might say wages expense. Wages expense. As soon as you see the word wages expense, that means this is the total wages for the business, total wages and salaries for the business. That means everything is inside of that. Everything is inside of that. Wages expense means total wages expense for the whole company. If the question in the exam they give it to wages expense, so do not add this one again. Do not add the employer's NI again. If the question said wages expense, do not add the employer's NI again because this is already inside. Only add this one if they say gross pay. Gross pay means this is only employees earning. There is nothing inside for the employer. But as soon as I see the word wages expense, that means everything, employee and employers, everything inside. I don't have to do anything. So for calculating the net wages paid, so you take away everything, even the employer's NI, everything, because that time everything is inside. So these two are very careful, wages expense and the gross wages pay. Gross wages pay only for the employees earning, and Wages expense is for the whole business. How do you calculate question A? Which one is A? Well, which one are you talking about? So, okay, this is the one is done. Any question you have from here before we move to the next activity? All right, that's fine. So let's move on to our next activity. All right, we move to activity 4. Explain of what, Awel? Can you write me a bit in detail what you're exactly asking? Question A. You mean record the wages expense? Okay. So recording wages expense. So for example, let's say, well, you are the owner of a business. Let's say you are the owner of a company. Let's say this is your business. This is your business. Now, in this business, a lot of people work for you. Let's say 5 employees work for you. And this for 5 people, their gross salary, gross pay is £1,000. So for the 5 people, you spend £5,000, £1,000 for the salary for this weekly or maybe daily, whatever it is. So for this 5 people, you pay 5,000 or 1,000. So this is the gross pay. This is before any deduction, gross pay. That means this is the money earned by these 5 people, the employee. Now, as you're employing these 5 people, you have to pay some money additionally, top of that 1,000 to Hmrc. That is called employers NIC, and some money to the pension plus employer pension. Let's say this is 200 total. For example, this is 200 in total. Now, for employing these 5 people, how much is the cost for you total? So 1,000 you're paying to the employee as a gross pay, and 200 you're paying separately to Hmrc and pension. So for you, the total cost is 1,200. Because of employing these people, you have to pay some money to Hmrc and the pension, that is 200, and you paying to these 5 people 1,000 as a gross pay. So for you, the total expense, total wages expense is 1,200. So you're talking about wages expense, that is 1,200 here. So they're asking record the wages expense. So total wages expense for the business, how much it is. So you're gonna add how much the gross pay for the employee and how much is the additional cost for them for me. If I added these two, that will give me my total wages expense. Is it clear? All right, so, and the gross wages means you already know it. Gross wages means everything is inside before the deduction. Okay, let's move to activity 4. In activity 4, we have accounting for payroll, Stanley. Accounting for payroll, Stanley. All you need to do, you need to remember the journals. If you remember the journals and if you memorize the content or the items will come for that journal, for example, gross pay plus employers NI. So if you remember that, the way I'm writing, if you can write this one like me, if you remember that, there's nothing, you just do it. So it's not difficult at all. Okay, let's read this question. It says, Stanley Stanley pay its employee by check every month and maintaining a wages control account. A summary of a last month payroll transaction is shown below. Okay. Item. What item we have? We have a gross pay. We have a employee's national insurance. We have a income tax. We have a employer's pension contribution, and we have employer's NI. Okay, you see that this time we have employer's pension, not employee. Last time we had employee pension, not employer. This time they gave us employer pension, but not the employee. Okay, so the first question they're asking, recording the wages expense. Can everyone try that? What is the wages expense here? How much is the total wages expense? And what is the journal for that? So the journal is wages expense debit, wages expense debit, and wages control credit. And all you need to know the amount. So which amount will come here? We're going to take this one, the gross pay. We're going to add employer's pension contribution and employer's NI, isn't it? These two. Because this two is already inside of the gross pay. All you need to do, we need to add it the gross pay plus employer's pension contribution plus employers, two employers and employers. All the employers is never included inside of the gross pay. Any cost relevant to employer is never included on the gross pay. Gross pay is all about the employee cost. If I added this three, let's do that. 11,352 plus 245 plus 1241. That is 12,838. 12,838. That is, yeah. Thank you, Preksha. Thank you, Aya. So we move to the next question we have. On the next question, we have Hmrc liability. Can you get me the figure? How much is the Hmrc liability? No, Abdul. For the Hmrc liability, wages expense is not debit. It's wages control. Wages expense only come for the wages recorded. Remember that. Rest of the journal always wages control, not wages expenses. So wages control is debit, Hmrc credit. The amount will be 2 national insurance, 1 tax. So national insurance, this one, 1241, income tax 1652 plus another national insurance for the employee 901. 901 plus 1652 plus 1241, 3794. Very well done. So you're gonna write here wages control. That is 3794 debit and Hmrc. Har. What is HM means? What does that mean, HM? What is the abbreviation of HM? So this is the one we have done. Record Hmrc customer liability. Yes, Her Majesty. Her Majesty, Revenue and Customs. So everything under the name of Queen. Okay, so the next one we have net wages paid to employee. Record the net wages paid to employee. Can you get the figure for the net wages paid? How much you need to pay to the employee? So from the gross pay, we're gonna minus the employee national insurance. We're going to minus the employee tax, isn't it? That's 2. Because we don't have any employee pensions, we don't have to worry about it. 11,352 minus 901 minus 1652. So let's move on. Wages, control, debit 8799, and money will go from the bank. Bank credit 8799. Very well done. The final one we have for the pension. How much is the pension we have? We have only employer's pension here. That is 245. So we're going to record here wages, control, debit 245, and pension credit 245. Yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else we have? No, this is the end of the chapter. You see that like we don't have much thing here. If you know the journals, these 4 journals I have write it down for you with items, which item will come for which journal. If you know that, it's not difficult. I shall be pressing from this chapter. How much marks that? We're expecting like 1 question from this chapter with the 4 journal the way we did. We're expecting minimum 15 marks from this chapter. 15. Sometimes if they give 2 questions, it's 20. All right. Any question before we move to our next chapter? Any question relevant to payroll? You can ask me now, and we can move to our next chapter. Next chapter will be a bit long, so hopefully like we can finish today. Okay, so let's move on to our next chapter. Chapter number 6 is all about errors and the trial balance. Errors and the trial balance. So now we already know how to prepare the trial balance because we already done the trial balance on our bookkeeping transaction. We know from the ledger account. So we prepare the ledger account from the journal, isn't it? So from the debit and credit, we prepare the T account. And this T account is called ledger account. And from the ledger account, we do the balance CD and BD. And we take all the balances and later on we put on the TB on the trial balance. So some balance go to the debit side, some balance go to the credit side. So first we do the journal, that is debit and credit. From the debit and credit, the next step is prepare all these to ledger account. And from the ledger account, we take all the balances to prepare the trial balance. So this is the steps you already know. We have done it, all of this on our transaction paper. On this control paper, we're going to see what happened if there is a mistake. So far our trial balance, debit side and credit side is always equal. Debit side and the credit side are always matched so far. But we're going to see what happens if it is not matched. What happens if it is not matched because of some error, because of some mistake. So for example, if we done any mistake on the journal, if we done any mistake on the ledger account, so our trial balance will be not matched. And what will happen after that? And what happens even if we done some mistake and my trial balance is still balanced? What happens if this is the situation? So you're going to learn everything from this chapter. So let's talk about the errors, the mistakes. Now we have 2 types of error. We have 2 types of mistake. The first type is, let's say, error errors of TB. That means error of trial balance. Some error, because of even the error, trial balance will be still balanced. So trial balance will be still balanced. So because of some error, my trial balance debit side and the credit side will be still match. Even though there is a mistake, even though there is some errors, my trial balance will be still match. But there is some error, because of that, my trial balance will not be match. So TB will not balanced. So because of some error, my trial balance will not be matched. So my trial balance debit side will say something and credit side will say something. For example, for this reason, my trial balance will be still balanced. So it will be matched both side, debit side, credit side. But because of some error, my trial balance, the debit side and credit side will not be matched. So debit side will say something, credit card side will say something else, and it will not be matching. When this is the situation, another new account will be created, and that is called suspense account. When trial balance debit side and the credit side does not match, when trial balance debit side and the credit side does not match, suspense account created. Remember that. When it is matched, there is no problem, no suspense account. But when it doesn't match, we have to create a suspense account. Now, what is suspense account? Suspense account is a temporary account that just created for the short time, for a very limited time, to make it balance. For example, my credit side is 100 and my debit side says 90. So I have a short £10 on the debit side. So I would say suspense £10 and just make it balance for the short time. Suspense means I have a question mark. I'm not sure about this account. So the difference is coming and I don't know why. The difference is coming and I don't know why. Maybe sometimes when you put the suspense account, you draw attention to your manager or maybe the supervisor, the senior person. You try to fix it, you try to balance the trial balance, but it is not balancing. So you tell your manager, I put the suspense account 10,000, or maybe if your manager see the trial balance, and if he or she see £10,000 is there as a suspense, he or she will understand 10,000 you don't know from where it is coming. So you need to find the error and you need to remove the suspense account. Remember, this suspense account can't be on accounts. So you cannot keep this one on the accounting record. Suspense account has to go. Suspense account has to be removed. So this mistake, you need to find it out, where is the mistake, and suspense account has to be removed from the system. So all of these we're going to learn today. What type of error we have that our trial balance will be still balanced, this one. What type of errors we have, the trial balance will not be balanced, number 2, and how we're going to identify the suspense account, number 3, and how we remove the suspense account and correct the trial balance. So all of this we're going to see from chapter number 6, error and the trial balance. It's a very important chapter. We're expecting 20 marks in the exam. Make sure you get it. This chapter is tricky, so my advice will be, even after the lesson, you spend some time to revise the chapter. So let's go inside and try to find it out more about it. Okay. The first thing we're going to see, the errors. They said, name of errors not disclosed by trial balance. So because of this error, because of this type of error, our trial balance will be still match. This error will be not disclosed. Disclosed means these errors will not be revealed. So your trial balance will be matched and you're not going to find any difference with the trial balance. So your debit side and credit side will be equal, but this error will be still there. So all this error you can see, this is still will be there, but your trial balance will be still match. So that means even your trial balance is match, doesn't mean you can say my trial balance is 100% correct. There is no mistake. You cannot see it. You cannot say it because even though the trial balance is a match, there is a possibility this error is still there. Let's have a look this type of error. I will explain a little bit now, and when you go detail, you're going to see every single error in very detail. The first one is error of commission. Error of commission is when you record the same account but in different type of account, for the same transaction in different type of account, for the same category in the different type of account. What does that mean? That means, for example, if I said rent is 1,000, that is debit. On the debit side of the trial balance, and this is correct, you know it. But if I said, rather than I'm saying the rent, I said electricity 1,000 debit. So rent is 1,000 actually, this is the correct entry, but mistakenly I said electricity 1,000. Now both going to trial balance, on the debit side. Even if I take the rent, it will come here. If I take the electricity, it will still come here on the debit side. So my trial balance will have no impact. My trial balance will be matched, but I have choose the wrong account because this account belongs to rent. So 1,000 pound, I paid for rent, but mistakenly I have wrote electricity. What happened because of that? My trial balance will be matched. There is no problem for that, but my rent account will show less money. So after the year end, I will say I paid this amount of rent, that will be shown 1,000 pound less, and electricity bill, whatever it is, that will show 1,000 more because I recorded 1,000 rent on the electricity bill. So this is called error of commission. The next one we're going to see, that is error of omission. Omission means you omitted, you completely forgot one entry. For example, there's a 10 journal for the rent. So you have 10 invoice for the rent payment and you just forget one. So maybe you took 9 from your table, one is there. So you never recorded that one on the system. So system have no idea how many types of rent you have, isn't it? So system will don't know did you forget anything or not. So your trial balance will be still balanced, but there is error of omission possible. Error of original entry, you might make a mistake on the original entry. For example, if the entry is 600 but you write 500, so the system will don't know how much was the electricity bill. Let's say the bill was 600 but you said 500, so system will only take 500 and you both side debit and credit, both side you write 500, so system don't know it. So basically whatever you write, system will think this is the right one. Then we have error of principle. Error of principle is when you change the category. When you change the category of the account. For example, rent. Let's say, for example, computer maintenance or computer insurance. So computer expense or maintenance expense, whatever it is. This is the item will go to profit and loss account because this is a revenue expenditure. This is a revenue expenditure. So rather than writing computer expense, you write computer 1,000. As soon as you write the computer instead of writing computer expense, what happened? This computer will go to your asset on the balance sheet. It's a capital expenditure now. So basically you change the category. Something is a revenue expenditure, but you're making it capital expenditure. Something is capital expenditure, you're making it revenue expenditure, but both items will go to where? On the debit side of the trial balance. So your trial balance will be matched. There is no problem for that. Your trial balance will be matched anyway, but this is the mistake you make because you change the category. If something is a revenue expenditure, but you treat this one as a capital expenditure. If something is a capital expenditure, you treat this one as a revenue expenditure, that is called error of principle. Then we have reversal of entries. That means you do the opposite. For example, cash sale. The journal will be here, cash debit and sell credit. Isn't it? This is our journal. But what you did opposite. You said sell debit and cash credit. Let's say 500 and 500. So you did reverse. You did opposite. What happened because of that? Now your sale will come to the debit side, 500, and your cash will come to the debit credit side, 500. Even though you made a mistake, your trial balance will be still balance is matching, because trial balance is only focused on the figure, isn't it? Trial balance don't care about the items or entry. Trial balance only care about the figure is matching, debit credit side, that's it. Then the last one we have compensating error. Compensating error is when you make the error, when you make a two error and one error compensate each other. For example, on the purchase is supposed to be 1000, but you write 950, so £50 less. On the other hand, the sales was maybe 1000 and you write again mistakenly 950. So basically you made a mistake two places, one in the debit side, one in the credit side, and maybe they compensate to each other. Sometimes you write one is higher and another entry you make it lower. For example, let's say purchase you make 950 and there's a rent that was 1000, but you write 1050. Here you write £50 less and another entry you write £50 more. So it's compensate each other. So if you made a few mistakes and if few mistakes compensate each other, and because of that trial balance is matching, this is called compensating error. So you see there's a lot of type of error. So because of all this error, our trial balance will be still match. Our trial balance will be still balanced. It will be still match. There is no problem for that. Okay, now we're going to see some error. So because of that error, trial balance will not be matched. So produce journal entries to correct error not disclosed by the trial balance. It will be not disclosed. Trial balance. So produce journal entries to correct the error not disclosed. Okay, so because of that, our trial balance will be different. So our trial balance debit side and the credit side will not be matched. Correct errors using the journals. So this is the correct error. So we're not going to do that because we'll do it in detail. So leave that for the time being. We want to see example every single error so that we can correct it. Okay. Okay, let's have a look. These two sides. So we already discussed that. Error that not lead to an imbalance in the trial balance. It's a very hard word. Error that do not lead to an imbalance in the trial balance. That means trial balance will be still balanced. Still balance. So trial balance will be still match. That means this. This one, error that lead to an imbalance in the trial balance. So because of this error, our trial balance will not be matched. This type of error will make our trial balance imbalanced. So debit side something, credit side something. So let's do that. The first one we have single entry transaction. Single entry transaction. That means you write only one debit and you forget the credit. If you do that, your trial balance will not be matched. For example, you write cash sale, you just write cash debit. You didn't write sale credit. So if you do like that, only one entry if you do for the journal, and if you transfer to the ledger account, your trial balance will not be matched. But your trial balance will not find the opposite entry. The correspondence entry is missing, so your trial balance will not be matched. The next one is to debit to credit. We already know something has to be debit and something will be credit. So if mistakenly, if we said cash debit and sale debit, both are debit. If we make to debit or to credit, if we do this type of mistake, our trial balance will not be balanced. Unequal amount error. Let's you said your debit is 100 and credit is 110. If you make an unequal error, your trial balance will not be balanced. Calculation error. So if you make a calculation and if you end up with some error, for example, when you added your total, you want to get a balance CD or BD. If you make a calculation error there, it will not be balanced. Balance transfer. So from your balance CD, for example, from the ledger account, let's say your balance CD was BD was like 500, and mistakenly you took right on the trial balance 600. If you do that, your trial balance will not be balanced. Balance omission. For example, you have a 10 journal, for example, one for cash, one for bank, one for sale, one for purchase, and you forget one. If you forget any of the ledger account from your balances, from your ledger account, if you forget any entry, the trial balance will not be balanced. Then transposition error. So transposition error is when you make a mistake when you move the entry. For example, on the debit side you write something, and the credit side you write something else. Let's say you write 50 here, and here you write 40, and the difference is come 10. So this 10 will be created as a suspense account. So because of this transposition, your trial balance will not be balanced. Now you're going to see inside every single error, and you're going to see example of every single error, and we try to see how could we solve that. How could we resolve these issues? How could we correct this error? So let's go inside and have a look. Okay, the first example we're seeing here, that is error of omission. Error of omission. The entry is completely omitted from the ledger account. So there is an entry that you completely forget. If this has happened, then your system or your accounting record don't know you forget something. So your trial balance will be still balanced. So have a look at that. It's illustration number 1. A payment for electricity of £80 was not recorded. A payment for electricity of £80 was not recorded. So there is a electricity bill payment £80 and you completely forget to record that. What happened? What was the original entry? What was the original entry? The original entry is electricity expense debit and bank credit. Why I'm writing nil? I didn't write anything. I didn't do the journal because I forget. So I make it nil. So you need to ask 3 questions yourself. You can write it down. This is very important. You need to ask 3 questions yourself to identify the error and correct the error. The first one is, what was the original entry? What was the original entry? What was the original entry? So with the mistake. So what mistake you have done? With the mistake one. With the mistake, what was the original entry? So with the mistake, what mistake you have done? So this is the one will tell you what was the mistake. First question, you need to ask yourself what mistake you have done. So that means what was the original entry? You can see here the original entry was electricity nil, bank nil, because I put nil, it's supposed to be 80. Then the next question is what the entry should have been. What the entry should have been. So if I haven't made the mistake, what the correct entry supposed to be? So you're gonna find the correct entry. So correct entry. For example, for this question, the correct entry will be electricity debit £80, bank credit £80, isn't it? The number 3 thing is like remove the incorrect entry and correct the correct one. Record the correct one. So remove incorrect entry and record correct one. So any mistake, I'm going to remove it and I'm going to record the correct entry. And the final one, remove suspense account. If there are any suspense account, you have to remove it. So these steps you have to remember. The first one, you need to ask yourself, what was the original entry? What was the mistake? The next one is, what happened if I never done this mistake? What is the correct entry? So you find the correct entry. Then you remove the wrong one and record the right one. And if there is any suspense created because of the wrong entry, you need to remove that. It's very simple. Even if you don't know the steps, if I ask you, how are you gonna correct the errors? How are you gonna correct the mistake? So first thing you're gonna tell me, I'm gonna find the mistake. So what is the mistake? That is what is the original entry. I'm gonna find out that first. Then after that, I'm gonna remove my old mistake. So I'll see what was the mistake. I'm gonna delete that. I'm gonna remove that, and I'm gonna remove the correct one. That's it. So this is the one basically the same. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So the next one is what the entry should have been. So the entry should have been electricity debit £80, bank £80 credit. That's my correct one. So what the entry should have been. So this entry should have been electricity 80 debit and bank 80 credit. So first question, what was the original entry? What was the mistake? Mistake is I put nil. Now I know what is the correct entry. That is 80 and 80. Prepare journal entries to record the transaction. Now I'm going to record the transaction. What is the transaction? Electricity debit £80, bank £80 credit. That's it. It's a simple one. So we don't have to remove. We haven't done any mistake here because we forget. That's why I don't have to remove the mistake. If I have a mistake, I have to remove the mistake. Okay, this is error of omission. So if you forget something, that's how you can correct it. You find the mistake, then you find what the entry should have been, the correct one if you haven't done the mistake. And the final one is record the correct one. Okay, the next one, error of original entry. What happened if you made a mistake when you record the original entry? So you just forget you just record the wrong entry. What happened for that? So let's have a look at that. This one it says an entry that has been made so that debit and the credit but amount is incorrect. So if you have this situation, you make the debit and credit but you record the amount is incorrect. The amount you recorded is incorrect. Let's have a look at the example. Illustration 2. A payment of 520. A payment of 520 from a credit customer is recorded 250. So you received £520 from a credit customer. He paid to you 520, but when you type on your system, you recorded 250. Rather than writing 520, you record 250. How we do that now? What was the original entry? The original entry is with the mistake one, isn't it? Original entry with the mistake. My mistake was bank is 250. Sales ledger control 250. If I receive money from my credit customer, I said money come to the bank, so bank is debit, bank will go up. And on the other hand, sales ledger control. Sales ledger control is the customer credit balance, so credit customer balance. their balance will go down, so I make them credit. But they actually paid me 520, but I recorded 250, so I'm still expecting 250 more or more money from them. But this is not right, isn't it? That was the original entry. Original entry means with the mistake one. Remember that. Original entry means with the mistake one. Then what the entry should have been? So if I haven't made any mistake, what the correct entry supposed to be? The correct entry should be supposed to be 520 and 520. So bank 520 and sales ledger control 520. So it's not 250, it's 520. So bank 520 and sales ledger control 520. Now the final bit is remove, record the journal. Remove the incorrect one. What was incorrect? 250 was incorrect, isn't it? Now, as we already know, if I want to remove something, I make the opposite entry, isn't it? For example, if I want to remove the 250 from my system, so 250 is a debit. If I want to remove it from my system, I will make it opposite. I'll make it credit, because debit and credit like a plus and minus. So if I want to remove 250 from my system, I just make 250 credit, so that will be gone. So I'm going to make bank 250 credit, so bank will be gone 250. And sales ledger control was credit. I'm going to make sales ledger control debit, so this will be gone as well. So this two will be removed from my system. And after that, I'm going to record the new one, bank 520 and the sales ledger control 520. That will be the new one in the system. So let's have a look at that. Remove the incorrect entries. That is sales ledger control 250, that is debit, and bank 250 credit. So now this two journal is gone from my system. 250 is gone. And record the correct entries. And I'm recording bank 520. I'm receiving 520 in the bank. So bank is debit and sales ledger control 520 is credit. This customer figure will go down by 520, not 250. So I remove the mistake, old mistake, it is gone by inserting the opposite entries. So if something is debit, I make it credit, so it will be gone, and recording the right one. That's it. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Error of commission. It's a double entry is arithmetically correct. So number is correct, the amount is correct, but a wrong account of the same type has been used. Wrong account. Let's have a look. The wages and salaries expense account is incorrectly debited with a rent expense account. So something was wages and salaries, £100, but incorrectly or mistakenly you said this is a rent. So because of that, your rent will be higher for that period, and wages and salaries will be lower for that period by the same amount. What was the original entry? Original entry was with the mistake, wages and salary. So wages and salary incorrectly. Wages and salary is incorrect actually. So wages and salaries expense incorrectly debited with a rent expense account. So my original entry with the mistake was wages expense debit and bank credit, but it was rent, not wages expense, isn't it? What the entry should be? The entry should have been rent £100 debit and bank £100 credit. Now what I'll do, I'm going to remove the wages and salaries, the mistake, and I'm going to record the rent. How I'm going to remove the wages and salaries? Wages and salaries was debit 100. I'm going to make it credit 100, so it will be gone. And the rent I'm going to record as a new entry, rent £100 debit. So let's do that. I'm not going to move the bank. Why? Because the bank is credit. You see, bank is credit, and that is correct. Because here the bank is credit again. So no point of removing the bank and record the bank again, because bank is credit anyway. So we record the incorrect entry, that is wages and salaries, £100. We remove that. It was debit before. I'll make it credit, so that is gone. And I'm recording the new entries, the correct entries. So record the correct entries, that is rent £100. That's it. So remove the incorrect, record the correct one. I'm not moving the bank because bank is correct anyway. Okay. And the next one is error of principle. Error of principle is, as I said, I changed the category. Something is a revenue expenditure, but I said this is a capital expenditure. For example, I just have some maintenance for my computer. It was computer expense, but I said this is a computer. So rather than I'm saying expense, I'm saying this is the asset. Let's have a look at this one. A motor vehicle petrol expense. So the expense was for petrol. The expense was for petrol, £40, is debited to the non-current asset motor vehicle. So rather than I'm saying this is a petrol expense of the motor vehicle, I'm saying this is a motor vehicle. So that means it says I'm not paying for the petrol, rather I'm buying a full motor vehicle. So I'm buying an asset, I'm buying a car, I'm buying a motor vehicle in £40. So my asset will be higher because of that, isn't it? But it's not true because I paid for the petrol, but I didn't write it correctly like motor vehicle petrol expense. I write motor vehicle. So my asset gone up, but it is the expense, it's not asset at all. So because of that, my expense goes down and my asset goes up, and this is incorrect. So what was the original entry? The original entry here is motor vehicle 40. This is the mistake I have done. Motor vehicle 40 and bank credit. Money goes from the bank is credit. What the entry should have been? What the correct entry? The correct entry is supposed to be motor vehicle expense. You see that they said SOFP. That means this item will go to statement of financial position. That means on the asset side, balance sheet. But this one is SPL, statement of profit and loss account. So this item will go to the profit and loss account, not to the balance sheet. So I made a mistake. So the correct entry, the entry should have been motor vehicle expense 40 and bank 40. So bank is correct. There is no problem with the bank. This is incorrect, motor vehicle. I need to change the motor vehicle to motor vehicle expense. How are we going to do that? We're going to change this one. We're going to remove motor vehicle. So make it credit, it will be gone. And record the motor vehicle expense, debit new. That's it. Remove the incorrect entry. So motor vehicle expense, I make it credit. Motor vehicle credit 40. So motor vehicle is gone before it was debit. And we record the correct entry, that is motor vehicle expense 40 debit. That's it. Then we have error of reversal. On the error of reversal, we can see the debit and the credit entries are on the wrong side of the respective account. So I reverse it as I said before. So there is a cash sale, supposed to be cash is debit, sale is credit. But I said sales is debit, cash is credit. I make the opposite. I reversed it. Let's have a look at this one. Illustration 5. The entries to record a sale on credit, so credit sale, were included on the wrong side of the respective account. So I said, you see, if I make a credit sale, the journal has to be sales ledger control debit and sales credit, isn't it? If I make a credit sale, if I created the credit customer, then sales ledger control is debit and sales is credit. But what we have done here, we have done sales is debit and sales ledger control credit. So I'm making the opposite. I said sales is debit, but actually sales is not debit, isn't it? So I made a mistake. I reversed it. If I reverse it, I have to make the correction, isn't it? So what the entry should have been? The entry should have been sales ledger control debit and sales credit, not sales debit and sales ledger control credit. It has to be opposite. Sales ledger control debit and sales credit. Now what I do? I remove this old mistake and record the new one, isn't it? So I said sales, remove the incorrect entries. I make a sales credit and sales ledger control debit. So this credit will remove my old debit, is gone, and sales ledger control was credit. I'm going to make it debit now, so it will be gone as well. So my old mistake is gone. And now I record the new one, the correct one, record the correct entries. So I'm going to record the correct entries, that is sales ledger control debit and sales credit. So if there is a error of reversal, we write the same thing twice, because the first one will remove the old mistake and the new one will be in the system. Okay, the next one is compensating errors. This is where two errors are made which exactly cancel each other. The errors are unrelated, but the fact that they both occurred will mean that there is no imbalance in the trial balance to help identify them. Even though there is a two mistake in two places, but that will compensate each other so that my trial balance will be still balanced. As I said, in one transaction, maybe I write £50 less, another transaction I write £50 more. And because of that, my trial balance is balanced. So this is called compensating error. Let's have a look at that. Illustration number 6, they said, if the sales ledger control account was incorrectly debited, sales ledger control account was incorrectly debited with 4,100 in respect of a sales transaction. So I incorrectly said 4,100. The correct amount is 4,000. You see that? So one side, sales ledger control, I write 4,100. And on the sales amount, I write 4,000. That is correct. The sales account is credited with the 4,000. So I'm saying my sales is 4,000, sales ledger control is 4,100. That cannot be possible, isn't it? Because we know the debit and credit side has to be equal. We cannot just say sales ledger control is 4,100 and sales is 4,000. We cannot do that. So there is a difference here, 100. And what we did, there is another entry, that is purchase return was incorrectly credited 1,600. And the purchase ledger control account that is debited is 1,500 correctly. So here I'm writing 100 pound what? Less, and here I'm writing 100 pound more. So because of that, it will be cancel each other. Let's have a look at this one. What was the original entry? The original entry was sales ledger control 4,100. That is wrong, isn't it? I write 100 pound more here, and I wrote 4,000 pound correctly for the sale. Here, purchase ledger control, I wrote this one, 1,500 is the correct one. But for the purchase return, I wrote 1,600, 100 pound more. So here I wrote 100 pound more on the debit side, and here I have wrote 100 pound more on the credit side. So because of two mistakes on the two sides, my trial balance will be still match. It will be balanced. What the entry should have been? The entry should have been sales ledger control 4,000, sales 4,000, purchase ledger control 1,500, and purchase return 1,500. Both should be equal. Prepare journal entries. Prepare journal entries to remove the incorrect entries. So remove the incorrect one. Incorrect one was 4,100, isn't it? That was debit. I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to make it credit. That will be gone. And 1,600 was incorrect. Purchase return, that was credit. I'm going to make it debit. That will be gone as well. And after that, I'm going to record the correct entries. The correct entries we can see: sales ledger control debit 4,000, purchase return 1,500. That's it. So because of this error, our trial balance will be still balanced, but we need to find the error and need to remove it. Now we're going to see error that lead to an imbalance on the trial balance. That means because of this error, our trial balance will be still balanced, still match. Okay, let's go on. Okay, let's do the question from here. This question it says, error that lead to an imbalance in the trial balance. Okay. A business drafted its initial trial balance and found the total of the debit and the credit column as below. Okay, that's fine. As follows. So let's have a look. What is the difference we have? So on the debit side, on the trial balance, on the debit side of the trial balance, we have 150, 500. On the credit side of the trial balance, they said we have 160,000. There is a difference. How much is the difference? 9,500. Which side? Debit side. So this is called suspense account. So shortest side, the suspense account is always created. Remember that suspense account created the shortest side. This side, the credit side is higher, 160, and the debit side is lower, 150. So to cover the shortest, to fill in the gap, we create a new account that is called suspense account. And this one we're going to record on the debit side, on the shortest side, to make it balanced, to make it 160. But as we said, we cannot keep this suspense account very long on our accounts. As soon as we find the mistake, why it is not matching, we find the reason, we remove the suspense account so that we can sort it out. For the time being, we just put the suspense account and we said we're gonna resolve the issue very soon. So suspense account just for the temporary basis. Once we find the mistake, we remove the suspense account and correct the entry. And after that, our trial balance will be balanced anyway. All right, so let's have a look. The first one we have. Now we're going to see some error. Because of that, trial balance will not be balanced. The first one is single entry transaction. That means you write only one side. One side of the double entry has been made. Example, debit, not credit. So you write only on the debit side. For example, there is a cash sale, you write only cash debit, but you didn't write what is credit. You didn't write sales is credit. So if you forget one, if you just write on the one side, this is called single entry transaction. This is called single entry transaction. Let's have a look at the example. A wages and salaries transaction 4482. A wages and salaries transaction of 4482 is only recorded in the wages and salaries control account. There, the entry to the wages and salaries expense account is omitted. So the entry to the wages and salaries expense account is omitted. So only we record on the one side, that is wages and salaries control account. So we record on the control account, nothing right on the expense account. We already know every transaction has to have two things, one the debit side, one the credit side, isn't it? So the debit side and the credit side has to be equal. If we write only debit side, my credit side will be short. And because of the shortage, suspense account will be created. So let's have a look. So what was the original entry with the mistake? Original entry means with the mistake. So here I have write only wages and salaries control account credit. So as soon as I said only wages and salaries control credit, and if I don't write anything for the debit side, debit side will be shorted by the same amount, isn't it? So I can say the debit side is shorted by the same amount because wages and salaries expense I write 0. I didn't write anything. So my suspense account will be created with the same amount. When there is a shortage, suspense account created. When there is a shortage, suspense account will be created. Now my suspense account is created here, same amount. What the entry should have been, the correct one? The entry should have been wages and salaries expense debit, wages and salaries control credit. But we didn't write this one, isn't it? That's why the suspense created this side. So now I know this one. If I find a mistake, how are we going to correct it? I'm going to record this one and remove the suspense. Suspense cannot be on the accounts for long. So let's do that. Prepare journal entries to record the correct entry. Which one is the correct? This one, wages and salaries expense debit 4482. So I'm going to say wages and salaries expense debit 4482. This one is correct anyway, the credit. Only the debit was missing. So I'm going to record the debit side. That will be done. Now my final job is to remove the suspense. I cannot keep the suspense. I'm going to remove the suspense. What I'll do, I'm going to make suspense before it was debit. Now I'm going to make suspense credit to remove that. So I'm going to say record the entry to remove the suspense account. Suspense 4482 is credit because before it was debit 4482. Now we're going to make it credit. That's it. The next one we're going to see here, 2 debit and 2 credit. So that means rather than writing, if we write something debit and something credit, instead of writing that, if we write debit and debit, for example, cash sale, cash is debit, sales is debit, or sales is debit, sales is cash is debit. If we make the same thing like 2 debit, 2 credit, our trial balance will not be matched and shortage will be created to the other side as a suspense account. Let's have a look at that. Both accounts have been posted. Both accounts have been posted with debit entries, or both accounts have been posted with credit entries. Okay. Example: Electricity payment of 2,500 is credited to both general ledger account. So we said electricity bill, uh, electricity expense debit, bank credit. That's not possible, isn't it? Electricity should be debit and bank money is going from the bank. Bank's supposed to be credit, but we said both debit mistakenly. So because of these two error, my credit side will be debit shall be short is by 5,000. So I'm writing both in the credit side, and because of that, my suspense account created by 5,000 because they didn't find anything on the debit side. So debit side will be short is by 5,000. What the entry should have been? The entry should have been electricity expense debit, bank credit. Electricity expense debit, bank is credit. So this is my correct entry. So which one I should remove? I'm going to remove this one, electricity, because electricity cannot be credit. I'm going to remove that. How I'm going to remove that? That was credit. I'm going to make it debit, so it will be gone. Then after that, I'm going to record this one as a debit, electricity debit, another entry, electricity debit. And finally, I'm going to remove the suspense. So suspense was debit. I'm going to make suspense credit, and it will be gone. Let's have a look. The first thing, remove the incorrect. Which one is incorrect? Electricity credit, isn't it? So I'm going to make electricity debit, so it will be gone, debit and credit. Then I'm going to record the correct entry, electricity debit again. This is the new one because this one, you see the same thing, but this one will remove the old mistake. The one I have done already credit, so that will be removed by this one making debit. This is the new one. And the final thing, remove the suspense account. Suspense was debit side 5,000. I'm going to remove the suspense by recording on the credit side. So debit and credit like a plus and minus. Remember that. All right. So now next one is unequal error. So I think let's take a break now. So we already done so many. So let's take a break and we come back and we're going to start with unequal amount error. And you're going to keep doing all the error. Then you're going to do some exercise how to prepare the journal based on the error. You're going to see all of this. So let's take a break, half an hour break. We're going to come back around 12 o'clock and we're going to start from here. And before we go, please make sure everyone write it down your name for the attendance. So all of you just write your full name. That will be great so that they can do the attendance. I'll see you in 30 minutes time. Right, welcome back. So let's start with our errors once again. So this one you're going to see unequal amounts error. And the unequal amounts errors means like something is debit, you have one figure, and the credit side you have something else. For example, said a rent payment was incorrectly posted in the rent expense 1100, but incorrectly posted on the bank account 1000. So correctly posted on the rent expense account, so you put rent expense 1100, but on the other hand, now the bank you said 1000. So we already know it cannot be possible because debit and credit side has to be equal. Debit and credit side has to be equal. So we cannot have a debit figure something and credit side something else. So rent 1100, that is correct. But on the bank account, I wrote 1000. So my credit side is lower by £100. So this £100 I created as a suspense account because the shortest side has to be covered by the suspense account. So what was the original entry? The original entry is supposed to be, the original entry is rent expense debit, bank credit, and suspense account credit 100. And what the entry should have been? The entry should have been rent expense debit 1100, bank 1100 credit. So this is the correct one, 1100 for both, not 1000 and 1100. So prepare the journal to remove the incorrect entry. So the bank was the wrong 1000. So I'm going to remove that by make it debit. And I'm going to record the correct entry bank 1100. And finally, I have to remove the suspense. So suspense was credit 100. I'm going to make suspense debit 100. So it will be removed from my system. Then we have a calculation error. So once we do the calculation, if I make a mistake, that will also create the suspense account. Let's have a look at the example. This is sales ledger control account has not been incorrectly balanced. It shows 1200 on the sales ledger control account instead of 700. The corresponding credit entries were correctly included in the trial balance. So that means you make a mistake. Rather than writing 1200, you're writing 700. So when you writing on the balance for the sales ledger, you write 700, but the balance was for how much? 1200. So because of that, suspense account created by 500. All we need to do, we need to remove the 700 and we need to record the 1200. That's it. So sales ledger control account debit, I'm going to make it credit 700. So this will be gone from the system. And I'm going to make sales ledger control account debit 1200. This is the final one, the correct one. And finally, I have to remove the suspense account from the system. The suspense was debit before. I'm going to make suspense credit now, so it will be gone. That's it. Then we have balance transfer error. When we transfer the balance from the ledger account to trial balance, if you make a mistake there, then obviously the suspense account will be created. A balance on the petty cash account was included in the trial balance 600. It should have been 550. So the balance should be 550, not 600. The corresponding credit entry was correct. So only the problem with the balance transfer for petty cash account. What was the original entry? So we said the petty cash balance is 600. Actually, the right amount is 550, not 600. So what happened? We have to make the correction now. As you write more on the debit side, so the suspense account created on the credit side 50. What the entry should have been? The entry should have been, the correct entry should be petty cash account in the trial balance 550, not 600. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to remove the 600, the incorrect one. So I'm going to make it credit, that will be gone. And after that, I'm going to make debit 550, that's it. So petty cash account credit 600, so old petty cash will be gone. Then the correct one, petty cash account 550 debit, and finally the suspense account need to remove. It was credit before, now I make it debit, that will be gone. Then we have a balance omission. If I forget any balance, that also created the suspense account. You can see this one, discount received, I forget that, so suspense account created as a credit balance. Discount received is income, so I'm writing on the credit side. And finally, I need to remove the correct one. So I'm making the old mistake, remove, and recording the correct one. Discount received credit, and finally going to remove the suspense account. So suspense was before credit. I'm going to make it debit now. Transposition error. A purchase return is recorded correctly in the purchase ledger account as 402, but incorrectly in purchase return 420. So basically the amount is 420, but I wrote 402. So one side I write correct one, the another side I wrote the wrong one. So purchase return I wrote wrong, but the purchase ledger control account 402 I write correctly. So 18 pound is the difference, will become obviously on the other side, on the purchase ledger control side, because this is our difference. So I said, what was the original entry? The original entry, the mistake one, it was purchase ledger control 402. That is basically our incorrect one, the correct one. And the purchase return, mistakenly I write 420, not 402. Instead of writing 402, I'm writing 420. So the difference is 80 pound on the debit side. So suspense account created on the shortest side. So make it balance, I have to put 18 pound as a suspense account. What the entry should have been? The entry should have been purchase ledger control 402 debit, purchase return 402 credit. Remove the incorrect entry, purchase return 420 debit, so it will remove the old mistake. Then record the correct entry, purchase return 402, not 420, and remove the suspense account, make it credit. It was before debit, I'll make it credit, that will be gone. So after that, you can see we're preparing a suspense account. On the suspense account, the opening balance at the beginning, the difference was 9,500. And after that, I found all this error, all this mistake, and now it is 10,000, 10,000. Remember, the suspense account will not have a balance CD or BD. When you prepare the suspense account, you need to remember suspense account always, both sides will be equal, and there will be no balance CD or BD. No balance CDBT. So it has to be equal. And once it is equal both sides, then it will be vanished. So suspense account debit side and the credit side has to be equal. There cannot be any balance. So no balance carried forward for the suspense account. Okay, let's have a look. Let's do some practice because we already discussed so many things for the errors. Now we'll see some example, and we want to see how this question come in the exam. The first thing, this type of question always in the exam, like find the reason when the trial balance is balanced and when the trial balance is not balanced. So they're asking to find the reason. So from this question, you're going to see for what error trial balance will be imbalanced or it will be disclosed. The error will be find it out. For what reason trial balance will be not balanced and or maybe it will not be disclosed. So have a look at this question. Activity 1, error and the trial balance. It said show which of the error below are and are not disclosed by the trial balance. So error in the general ledger. The first one, this error disclosed by the trial balance. So error disclosed means trial balance will not be balanced. So the error will be find it out. For what reason? Error will be find it out. And error not disclosed by trial balance. That means even there is a mistake, even there is an error, the trial balance will be still match. What type of error we have for that? Okay, the first one they said recording a receipt on bank interest on the debit side of both bank and the bank interest. What do you think? You're going to find it out, this one disclosed or not disclosed. So what you did, bank interest and the bank both you make on the debit side. If you make two debit, your trial balance will be not matched. So it will be disclosed, isn't it? So error will be disclosed because you write both sides. Both sides you make debit. So if you make two debit, your trial balance will be identified because the credit side will be nil. Nothing will be there and trial balance will not be matched. And if the trial balance is not matched, that means your error will be identified. So for that reason, Abdul, it will be disclosed because your trial balance will find the difference. So you're gonna say it will error disclosed by the trial balance. Okay, the next one, recording a payment for a motor vehicle in the motor expense account. What do you think? You're writing the expense is error of principle. Very well done, Abdul. It will be not disclosed, of course, because both are debit, isn't it? Motor vehicle is also debit and motor expense is also debit. So I'm writing on the debit side. So my trial balance will not be affected for that. It will be balanced. Error not disclosed. Then the next one we have recording a purchase credit note on the credit side of the purchase ledger control account and the debit side of the purchase return account. So you're making opposite. So there's a return from the customer and you make a reversed. So basically rather than writing purchase return is a credit and purchase ledger control debit, you make opposite. So if you do error of reversal, you're not going to find it because debit side will come to the credit side and the credit side will come to the debit side and your trial balance will be still match. So obviously like because of that it will be not disclosed. Then incorrectly calculating the balance on the wages and salaries account. So basically what happened, you calculate incorrectly the balance for one account, only wages and salaries. That means wages and control balance is correct, but one balance is incorrect. So that will be disclosed, isn't it? Because if I made a mistake on both sides, debit and credit, then it's not going to be disclosed. But if I made a mistake only one side, it will be always disclosed. Next one, recording a receipt by check from a customer in the bank account and sales ledger only. So I receive a check from the customer and I receive the bank and the sales ledger only. So if I write only this side, if I don't write the credit side, obviously like then it will be disclosed, so it's not going to be matched. So I receive a check from a customer in the bank account and the sales ledger only. So that will be disclosed. Recording a bank payment of 510 for electricity and 5,100 for both accounts. So rather than writing 510, you're writing 5,100 for both accounts. Do you think it will be disclosed or not disclosed? Because system don't know how much is your electricity bill, isn't it? If you tell them 5,100, they'll understand 5,100 is the electricity bill for both sides. So that should be fine. So trial balance will be still match, so it will be not affect on your trial balance. So the error will not be disclosed. This type of question always in the exam, so make sure you understand this. Okay, opening a suspense account. Please quickly read this question, opening a suspense account. And let's do the activities. Why last one not disclosed? The reason is there is a bank payment 510, but you write 5,100 both accounts. So let's say electricity debit is supposed to be 510, but you write 5,100 debit and bank credit 5,100. So you write debit and credit equal. So if there is equal, trial balance will be balanced, isn't it? Trial balance have no idea about it. Because system don't know how much is the bill. You need to tell the system, isn't it? Okay, so let's have a look at this one. Activity 2. So we already know how to identify the trial balance. We need to see which side is lower. Our debit side is 390, 200. Credit side is 380. So credit side is lower, isn't it? How much is the difference? 9,800. The difference between these two. And the suspense account all is created on the lower side. Which side is lower, 380 or 390? So 380 is lower, isn't it? So to make the gap, to find the difference, I'm going to put 9,800 here to make it 390, isn't it? So it will be always created on the credit side. Remember, suspense account always created on the shortest side. Got it? All right, let's move on to the next one. On identifying and correcting the error. Okay. Activity 3. They said Julian initial trial balance includes a suspense account with a balance 150. So they said, let's say your manager give you a trial balance and you see 150 is the suspense account there, but you don't know is it they didn't say even the 150 is a debit or credit. So you have to find it out. 150 we don't know it is a debit or credit, but they said 150 suspense account balance created. The error has been traced in the sales return day book. Now you identify the error. Now you identified the error on the sales return day book. This is the sales return day book. Okay. How we correct that? We ask 3 questions, isn't it? What was the original entry? What the entry should have been? Remove the incorrect one, record the correct one. That's it. And after that, final job is to remove the suspense. That's fine. Let's do that. So where is the mistake? We don't know. Let's find it out. So all you need to do, we need to, from here, we need to find the mistake. How can we find the mistake from here? We need to check every single entry. I'm going to add this 3, add this 3, and add this 3 to check the total is correct or not. Can you check that? Like 672 plus 4,200 plus 3,384, how much it is? Is it 8256 or something else? Because there's a mistake is here on this book. So I need to identify where is the mistake, on the total or on the VAT or on the net. Where is the mistake? Check the mistake. Is the mistake on the VAT? All right, Naima. So the VAT, they said 1526. How much is the correct amount of VAT? 1376. So the VAT is supposed to be 1376. But in the total, they make a mistake when they make a total. They write VAT incorrect one, 1526. And because of that, the difference come out. Is the difference 150? Yeah, so this difference is coming on the quotient for the suspense because of that, because I made a mistake on the VAT account. When I make the total, I make the wrong total. That's why. That's fine. Now we know where is the mistake. Mistake is on the VAT. Now, when I have a sales return, what is the journal for that? Anyone remember the journal for sales return? What is the journal for sales return? So sales return is debit, sales return. How much is the amount? Sales return 6880, that is debit. Then VAT also debit because it's sales return 1526, and sales ledger control is credit, isn't it? That is 8256 credit. And my debit side is, the credit side is not matching. That's why I created the suspense account. Suspense 150 credit. So that's how I completed the entry. I said, listen, my debit side and credit side is not matching. I have a shortage in the credit side. So that's why I create a suspense account and I make it balanced now. So this is my original entry. Original entry means with the mistake. Original entry means with the mistake. So that is the things I have done. So I say sales return debit 6880, then VAT 1526 is a debit, then sales ledger control 8256 is credit. And after that, I check my debit and credit is not matching. And at the shortest side, I put as a suspense, I make it done. Now I have to find the error. So you already know the error, and we need to remove the error and record the right one. So let's do that. So the next one I have, what the entry should have been. Let's talk about that now. The correct one, what the entry should have been. The entry should have been sales return, VAT, and sales ledger control, isn't it? So how much the sales ledger return should have been? 6880, that is debit. The problem was the VAT. What the entry should have been? The VAT should be debit 1376, and sales ledger control supposed to be 8256. That's the correct. The entry should have been this. If you made like that, there will be no suspense account, but we made a mistake on the total of the VAT. That's why the suspense created. Okay, now our next job is to remove the incorrect entries. Which one is incorrect? VAT. So I'm going to say VAT. How much is incorrect? 1526. I'm going to make it debit or credit if I want to remove it. If I want to remove it, I'm going to make it credit. Very well done, Naima. And Preksha, because I want to remove it. As soon as I said 1526 VAT credit, then all debit will be gone. So I said that's fine. Then record the correct entry. What is the correct entry I'm going to write now? I'm going to record the new one. VAT, how much it is? 1376. And I'm going to make it debit or credit? I'm going to make it debit. Very well done. Because this is my right one. So incorrect one is gone, record the right one. And finally, my next job is remove the suspense account. So suspense account 150. I'm going to make it debit or credit? I'm going to make it debit because I created suspense account on the credit side. If I want to remove it, I'm going to make it debit. That's it. This question always in the exam, so make sure you understand it. That will be like 10 to 15 marks question. So it's always in the exam. So make sure you know it. Okay, I have a next question. This is the error of reversal. An entry to record bank receipt from a credit customer 4,400 had been reversed. Reverse means you done opposite. So when you receive from a customer any money, so what you do is the bank debit 4,400, and we said sales ledger control credit 4,400, isn't it? Or we did reverse. We made a mistake. What we did sales ledger control debit 4,400 and bank credit 4,400. Rather than I'm decreasing the customer balance, I'm increasing it. I'm asking more money. How I'm gonna correct this now? So I'm gonna remove the incorrect one. That's my incorrect one, isn't it? With the original entry. So I'm gonna sorry, that's my incorrect one. So I'm gonna remove the incorrect entry. How I'm gonna remove that? So I'm gonna make sales ledger sorry, bank. Let's write the debit side first. Bank 4,400 debit and sales ledger control 4,400 credit, isn't it? As soon as I did that, so my incorrect one will be gone. So this bank 4,400 debit will cross this one, bank 4,400 credit, and sales ledger control was debit, it will be crossed now credit, so it will be gone. Now the next one is a record the correct entry. I'm gonna write the same thing because the first one will remove the old mistake and the new one will be in the system. So I'm gonna write bank 4,400 debit and sales ledger control 4,400 credit. That's it. So you need to understand why I'm writing the same thing twice, here and here writing the same thing. Because this one I'm writing to correct the old mistake. This one should be in the system because I reversed it. If I reverse it, so I need to correct it. For example, if you ask someone to give £10, let's say Maha supposed to give £10 to Abdul, and rather than giving, Maha take another £10 from Abdul. So how much she need to give to Abdul now? So not 10, 20, because she's supposed to give 10. Rather than giving 10, she took another 10. So now she need to give 20 to cover it. So that's why I'm writing the same thing here and here again, so that the old mistake will be covered by this one. And the second one is the new entry, yeah. All right, so let's move on. Let's see what example we have. Okay, this one is a posting to general ledger. This question is always in the exam as well. So very careful with this chapter. So this chapter is tricky, so make sure you revise well. So this one we have the journal. They're asking to post the journal. They said activity 4, posting journal to the general ledger. The journal entries below have been prepared to correct the error. So the first one, telephone debit, suspense credit, suspense debit, telephone credit. You need to see this one like two at the same time. So telephone debit, suspense credit, suspense debit, telephone credit. Two entry. Requirement, the post the journal entries to the general ledger account below. Total the account, show the balance carried down in the telephone and the purchase ledger account. Okay. Let's do that. So let's write it down, this thing in the corner first. So we have telephone debit 242, and suspense credit 242. Then we have number two. Number two, we have suspense debit 2 into 200 and the purchase credit 2200. That's it. All right, let's move on. Let's do that. So we are in the telephone account. I hope all of you still remember how to move the journal to the ledger account. So we are in the telephone account. The first one is telephone debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write suspense. That is 242. So there is no more telephone, it's done. Then we have a purchase account. So purchase is credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write suspense. That is 2200. That's it. And we move to our suspense account. On the suspense account, let's do that. So the first one is suspense account is credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write telephone. That is 242. And here suspense is debit. On the debit side, I'm going to write purchase. That is 2200. And if I added both sides, it has to be equal. 2200. If I added these two, 2200. That's it. So when it is equal, that means there is no balance. It's all finished. Suspense is finished. Remember this question, this activity always in the exam, so make sure you practice well. All right, let's move on. Let's see our next activity. Activity 5. Let's do that. Redrafting the trial balance following the correction of error. Redrafting the trial balance following the correction of error. So let's do that. So on 30 September, Molly Co. extracted an initial trial balance which did not balance. On 30 September, Molly Co. extracted an initial trial balance which did not balance, and suspense account was opened with 18,874 debit balance. Okay. On 1st October, journal entries were prepared to correct the error and had been found and clear the suspense account. Okay. The list of balances in the initial trial balance and the journal entries to correct the error and show below. Okay, that's fine. This is our opening suspense account balance. And on 1st October, we found all this entry to correct it. So this is the entries you have to correct. Redraft the trial balance by placing the figure in the debit or credit column. You should take into account the journal entries that will clear the suspense account. So we know it. We cannot keep the suspense account, so we have to remove it. We know how to do it. It's fine. Not a problem. So let's do that. So first thing first, we need to make the journal. So before we prepare the trial balance once again, you see some figure we have to change. How many figure we need to change? They give us the figure for bank. They give us the figure for purchase return. So these two we have to change. So you see the bank is overdraft. Maybe it will be not overdraft after that, and the purchase return. These two. So we need to correct this two entry because trial balance is not matching and creating a suspense account. Let's do that. First thing first, we need to make our T account to find the balance. So let's do the T account. How many T account we need? One for bank, one for suspense, one for purchase return, 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Very, very careful. The way I'm doing, if you understand it, on the exam, you'll do the same thing. The same question you're going to see in the exam. The first one we do bank. Then we do purchase return. I'm writing PR. And the final one, I'm writing suspense. Left hand side is the debit side. The right hand side is the credit side always. Let's start with the banks now. So let's have a look what is the opening balance we have in the bank on the trial balance. On the opening balance, we can see bank said we have overdraft. Bank saying we have overdraft, so that's a liability 9482. Okay, so I'm going to write it down 9482. Which side I'm going to write? 9482. Debit side or on the credit side on the bank? It's a bank overdraft. If this is overdraft, I'm going to write on the credit side. So opening balance, balance BD. On the credit side, 9482. Very well done. The purchase return, let's find the opening balance for purchase return. 2431. What is the opening balance for purchase return? Is it debit or credit? Purchase return. Purchase return also credit. Yes, purchase is debit, purchase return is credit. So 2431. And on the question they said we have a suspense opening balance that is 18,874, and this is opening balance on the debit side. Okay, so balance PD 18,874 as on the debit side. Let me change the 4. Okay, that's it. Now we need to put the journal and you're gonna get the new balance. So let's have a look at the first one, bank. Bank is debit, suspense credit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write suspense 9482. Then bank is debit again and suspense credit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write again suspense 9482. This is 82. Okay, 9482. There is no more bank, so only 1 and 2 journal. That's it. So bank is debit. On the debit side, I'm writing suspense. Again, bank is debit. On the debit side, I'm writing suspense. So bank is done. Now we can see I can have a balance CDBD for the bank. Now I can see my debit side is higher than the credit side. So that means at the beginning I was in overdraft, and basically after the correction I would see it's not even overdraft. I'm getting in asset figure. So my balance debit side going up than the credit side. So debit side is higher than the credit side. How much is the total? 9482 plus 9482. 18,000. Thank you, Naima. 18,964. 18,964. I hope you already know how to get the balance CDBD. So this is our balance CD 9482, and this balance CD comes as a balance BD this side 9482. That means my bank is no more overdraft. Now the balance I have 9482. This is the opening balance, and it will be on the debit side, not on the credit, because my debit side is higher than the credit side now. Move to the next one, purchase return. Opening balance on the credit side. So I have purchase return here. Purchase return is debit. So on the debit side, I'm going to write suspense. Suspense, because we don't write the account holder name inside of the account, isn't it? We write opposite. Then this time purchase return is credit. So I'm going to write on the credit side, but I'm going to write the opposite name, suspense. So how much? 2521. How much will be the balance CDBD from here? Can you add this 2 and minus that to give me the balance CD? 4952. This is the total. 4952, 4952, 4952. And the balance CD is how much? 2521, 2521. So this is the balance BD 2521. All right, so you have the bank, new bank is a 9482, debit and purchase return 2521 is our new balance for the credit. Now we do the suspense. Suspense account has to be equal both sides. There should be no balance like balance CDBD. The first one, suspense is credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write bank 9482. Then the next suspense again credit. On the credit side, I'm going to write again bank 9482. Then the suspense is credit. So on the credit side, I'm going to write purchase return. That is 2431. And finally, the suspense account is debit. On the debit side, I'm going to write purchase return again 2521. Can you add it both sides? And it should match. If this is not match, then we made a mistake. $21,395. Both sides, okay. That's it, very good. So that means our suspense account is vanished, isn't it? There's no balance, is gone. Only two balance. For the bank, the balance BD is 9482, and for the purchase return 2521. That's it. So now I'm going to move to our trial balance because they say redraft it, so we need to redraft this one again because there was some mistake before. This is the reason suspense account created. Now we remove the mistake, so it should now match. So let's do the trial balance. Planned, let's do it together. You just need to tell me, is it debit or credit? So the plant is debit or credit? Plant is 54,824. Very well done. Then equipment is debit or credit? Debit. 28,424 is a debit as well. Yes. Inventory is a debit or credit? Inventory is asset. Inventory is a debit. Very well done. That is 15,392. Very well done. Now the bank, I'm not going to take this one because we changed the bank figure, isn't it? So we have a new bank figure now. That is balance BD 9482. Now it will be debit or credit? Now it will be our debit. Remember that, don't take this one, 9482. This time it is a debit. Why? Because we changed it. We made a mistake. We, from the general ledger now, our new balance on the debit side, because debit side is higher. Petty cash, debit or credit? 200, debit. Then sales ledger control, debit or credit? 64,136. 64,136. This is also debit. Purchase ledger control, liability, credit. Then VAT owing to Hmrc. VAT owing to Hmrc, liability. 424. Capital is always credit, isn't it? Sales is income, 309. Very well done. 565. Then purchase is debit, 140,592. Purchase return, I'm not going to take it, isn't it? I'm not going to take this figure because I have a new figure now. 2521. That's credit. Wages, 75,302. Then motor expense 504. You know that. Debit. So now we have something more, I think. So you cannot see it anyway. So after the motor expense, then we have office expense. That is also debit. Rent and rates is expense, debit, 4265. Heat and lighting 1100. Insurance 247. And miscellaneous expense, this is also expense, 5241. And after that, if I add it now, our debit side and the credit side has to be equal, because now we have all this corrected figure. For that, our suspense account is vanished. Now the debit side and credit side will be equal, and there will be no more suspense account. All right. So you see the template, the way the question can come in the exam. So the first thing, they can give you some journals. You need to identify the journals. You need to remove the suspense account. They'll give you a book. Let's say they'll give you a sales day book, sales return day book, and they'll tell you there is a mistake found on the book. So you need to add all the figure to identify where is the mistake. So you will add every single column. You'll add every single entry to find what is the mistake. Then what you do, you will write the original entry. What was the original entry, like with the mistake? Remove the incorrect one. So if something is debit incorrect, you make it credit to remove it. Then record the right figure. So you record the right figure with the new entry. And finally, do not forget to remove the suspense account. The suspense account you need to remove. If suspense account created on the debit side, you make the same amount credit, that will be gone. If the suspense account created on the debit side, you make it credit. If credit side, you make it debit. So you need to remove it. On the other hand, they might give you this type of question. So they'll give you some journal, and top of that, they'll give you the trial balance. So you need to calculate the figure from the journal. You have the new figure, and from the trial balance, you change these two figures. Sometimes they make it empty. They said they didn't give anything for the bank. They didn't give anything for the purchase return. So you find the new figure from the journal, from the ledger account. So you make a T account, you get the figure, and you just insert there. So if you have this thing, you know how to do it. Even they don't give the T account, you can make UT account. So on the exam, you can make a working. So on the white paper, you can make your own T account and you can get the balance. So if you do practice this question once again, you will see it's gonna be okay for you. But this chapter is tricky, as I advised you before as well. So make sure you revise this chapter once again, because this chapter there's a lot of things. So please do revise this chapter once again. Okay, any question from here so far? If you have any question, you can ask me now. No? Okay, so if there is no more question, so this is our